Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Unearthed Podcast, episode 3. Unfortunately, I had some issues with episode 2, but you'll be able to catch this one on everything. I have with me here today Seb Park and Miri, and we're talking about a variety of things today. Primarily, it's going to be the economics of constructed and some of the initial metagame that we've seen in the beta for this past week. But first, introduce yourselves, guys, and how are you guys doing?
Uh, I'm Frank. I'm doing good. I took a week off of work to play Artifact. Still had to work some because, it's LCS off season and contract season in esports, but happy days. Pretty good first week of beta.
Yeah, I've had probably only like 3 hours to play the beta in the last week. It definitely launched at the worst time for me. My day job is running an esports team in League of Legends, so definitely agency stuff means I've probably slept 50 to 70 hours the last 2 weeks. So fun stuff. I also lost to Conrad again, which is par for the course.
Constructed or limited?
Oh, limited.
Limited. So what I've been doing primarily this first week is I've been running a lot of events where I've just been playing with friends back home, but the tournament system is really good for running kind of just quick constructed events all throughout, being able to play through everything. And especially because a lot of my friends don't have a lot of the cards, we were able to just get a bunch of those tournaments going there. It was quite good. But
yeah, I've played mostly limited since the first week, just because I haven't had a complete deck. And after I spent 250 on packs and still not getting everything that I needed, I was just like, well, I'm just going to play keeper drafts and keep winning keeper drafts, open more packs. Success to be determined, I guess, on that one.
Yeah, I'm curious. How many packs have you guys opened? And are you guys missing any of the essentials? I feel like this is the number one topic that's being talked about right now. And, I'm very curious to see what people are up to.
So I got most of the stuff I need. I am missing Axe, I am missing Kana, and I am missing Dro, which are all pretty important to all the decks they go in. So I'm struggling a little bit. I'm having to play like Omni plus Tree and green decks and stuff instead of Dro. I also only got 1 Time of Triumph, 2 Cheating Death, and only 1 Vesture the Tyrant. So it's a struggle for some things.
How about you, Seb?
I've opened 2 packs on accident. I pressed space in order to buy the 50 pack combo, and it just opened the pack, and I'm like, what just happened? So I'm at 75 packs. That said, the 2 packs I opened, I got Kana and Zeus. So I'm running pretty good so far, I think.
It sounds like you're going to be sticking with the blue constructed decks then. Eh?
Oh yeah, man, we're good to go. Kana Zeus is already there. All I need, red hue. So sort of sad that you only got 1 Time of Triumph so far. You only need 2. So
Yeah.
How many did you get, Conrad?
I have 0 Time of Triumph, so I'm
Wow.
not living
How
up
many
to-
packs have you opened?
I've opened $150 worth, so
And 0 Time of Triumph.
0 Time
What
of
about
Triumphs.
heroes?
But I have almost every hero. I'm missing most of the black rares, so that's Sorlikon, Tinker, and Lich. I don't have a copy of
Lich
those.
is pretty key in some of the decks that he goes into.
Yes,
so-
particularly some of the black decks that I've developed. But I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you end up opening up a lot of these packs. I'm kind of waiting for the market at this point, and that's something we're going to definitely be talking about today. Is how does the economics of all this kind of go together, and how do we end up seeing, is it worth it buying singles? Do you think it's worth it buying singles? We don't know yet. We don't have access to the market at this time. But as somebody who's interested in constructed, I'm definitely looking at towards singles in terms of filling out my thing. I did actually play Keeper though to fill out my deck, and it did work. I got a con out of it, so maybe you guys should play Keeper.
I have been playing only Keeper because I've been trying to build out the cards that I have. I think it's necessary. I need the market to open so I can get Axes. Like every red deck plays Axe. I can't play red without Axe. So it's like right now I'm just waiting until I can actually finish getting Axe and Dro, because almost all the decks I play involve red or green. And right now I'm just like, I can't do any of it.
Have you guys been seeing any difference in Keeper? I haven't played Keeper Draft yet. Draft Spires better, but maybe I'll play Keeper in a bit. Have you guys been seeing differences in draft orders as a result of people wanting to have constructed cards they want?
I just for the 1 or 2 that I ended up playing, I didn't see any major changes. The con I picked up was first in a pack. I think you're gonna find some particular rares maybe falling, or probably not even rares. You're gonna probably see more on some of these more needed uncommons falling towards you in some of the later packs. But personally, I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be a major difference, particularly when everybody is going to be out and playing the game.
That's true. I mean, it's sort of interesting, right? Because I think the thing I've seen the most over the last couple of weeks is just the amount of initial world is falling topics with regards to worlds and whatnot. But then recently, I think what we've seen is that, hey, this is still pre-beta, right? Like this is like the beta. So I think the change where you can take 20 cards and make a ticket is an amazing change. I think that's super cool.
Yeah, that was great. I already got 20 extra tickets from having like 30 poised to strikes or whatever from doing all the keeper drafts. So, stuff like that. So that's great. Or like, 40 messenger rookeries or whatever I had.
Right.
And
so that was a really good change.
On top of that, it also, interestingly enough, sets a floor in terms of how much these cards are cost, right? Which is pretty interesting. There was a concern that these cards would cost less than what you could buy them for on the internet. But now it's a 5-cent floor for everything.
Well, that's actually, I think, probably our first topic of discussion today is it a 5-cent floor? Personally,
how could it not be?
Well, because some people value an event ticket not as much as other people, right? So
but it's literally 20 in, get it out. So even if you think the cards are like bad,
but I guess here's my rebuttal to that is that you can't sell an event ticket. An event ticket is worth nothing, arguably, unless you play a lot. And here's the thing: I'm going infinite at this point, so I don't even need event tickets. But no,
I mean, I'm also infinite at this point too. But
and to be realistic on it, like is that something that you guys feel is a concern? Is it really going to be a 5-cent floor? Or are you going to see a lot of people looking at selling cards at a lower cost, potentially 4 or even 3 cents in a lot of cases?
Yeah, I mean, so there are a couple of things from an economic consider. One is that I believe 4 cents is the lowest amount you can sell for on the marketplace and still get sent out.
3 cents.
3 cents. So 3 cents is actually the floor,
yes.
But there will be nothing sold less than 3 cents.
For less, yeah.
I think the equilibrium, like you said, probably falls around 4 cents. Is more likely, if only because, like you said, if there's people who have a discount there. The fact you can't sell event tickets or buy event tickets outside of the client does create an interesting way to recycle cards. It is a money sink. There's some interesting economic papers on those concepts. I would say for the most part though, what we won't see is junk cards at 6 cents. That is for sure, right. I think, right? And so now we know that hey, and the reason we won't see it at 6 cents is because you can always take it at your own valuation of putting into event tickets and then getting the cents out, as opposed to if you don't value the event tickets, then you're willing to sell it for less than what other people are selling.
Yeah, so that was a big topic that a lot of you were talking. But Frank, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, I was going to say that I think that, so you're saying basically if the floor for a lot of them is 4 to 5 cents, then to me, that puts a perspective. Well, you're never going to use uncommons for event tickets. And like you said, if we're all infinite already just off day one, we have as many, assuming that you are any good at the game at all, you can go infinite now that you have this ability to transfer into tickets. So how much are even uncommons going to be? To me, this can't be that much more, right? Because you can just draft and get a bunch, more than likely.
So something I was theorizing in this situation is that Valve use this specifically to set the marketplace standard, is that it helps draw the whole marketplace as a whole. Commons are now worth event tickets is kind of the mentality. So 20 commons equals 1 event ticket. So now we have a base level of what the economy ends up looking like in the situation. Now we go from there into what does that look like moving forward? What is an uncommon? Is certain uncommons going to be costing more, and what are rares going to be worth? So I think they've kind of set that floor. Now, what does the ceiling look like? Have you guys had any theories on this?
Yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. I think one of the things that we do, and I probably should at some point, we just need to open a bunch of packs and see what the distribution is, right? If the distribution is consistent across all packs with a sample size of over 200. Then we can then start to calculate working backwards what things cost. And I think it really depends also how many bomb rares are there, right? If, for example, you need 3 Vesture of the Tyrants, like we've talked about for every deck, suddenly people are opening more and more packs in order to create the equilibrium and such that they can open a Vesture the Tyrant, which therefore devalues the uncommons that are involved. Whereas if it's actually the case there are fewer bomb rares, then I think the commons go up in price as well.
So what are the bomb rares in Artifacts? Like how many, like what are the cards that come to mind that you're like, this is a bomb rare and this is going to be worth a ton of money?
Number one, super obvious one, it's got to be Watchtower. Watchtower is the worst rare that is in the game, and there's nothing that can compete with that. If I get that, I feel sad.
No, it's real bad. My first draft actually, or my first pack I opened, the rare was Watchtower, and I'm like, we're off to a great start.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where Watchtower tends to be one of those. I think a lot of the path cards tend to be those. So each color has their own unique path card at 3 mana improvement, and in that situation, when I get one of those, I usually feel kind of bad. They either provide, they're definitely color dependent, but yeah, I not my biggest. Not my biggest.
But what are the good rares?
Go ahead, Frank.
All the heroes are definitely good rares, right?
Well, here's the thing with good heroes is that I believe if you have a good hero, you only need to get it once.
Right.
You want 3 of those juicy Time of Triumphs, those other ones.
Come on, we only need 2 at the Time of Triumphs. You don't need 3.
I'm about the 3 in some of my decks. It all depends, right? It all depends.
Right. Yeah, I want 3 of everything. I think if that's the case, which rares that like matter the most, I think for me, they'd be like the items. So your Horn of the Alphas, your Apotheosis Blades, your Vesture of the Tyrants, and then from items you have like Emissary of the Quorum, probably Time of Triumph for sure, Spring the Trap, Annihilation. Annihilation is going to be the most valuable one, right? Like
it's one of the most valuable.
I hope so. I got 4, so.
Yeah, I got 4 also, and I also got a bunch of at any cost. That's another pretty good one.
Any cost is great.
I also do have 5 Spring the Trap, so I was happy about that too.
Do they enable trading between players or no?
No, I don't. I think that'll be a feature that'll come post set. That's my theory right now.
I feel like that will affect the card economy in pretty dramatic ways. The other thing I'm a little worried about is that opens the door to like botting, like how MTG online.
Yeah,
botting's not bad though, right? Like
I kind of think it is because it really takes away the ability for the average player to sell their extra cards because not every person is going to want to set up a bot.
I see what you're saying, but we still have the marketplace. Change it for that amount. The real question that's going to happen is that if you have player-to-player trading, you can start seeing things like the 2 Lounge, where you can basically sell your cards for like real life value, which I think it's against the end user license agreement, by the way, which might be the hesitation on the Valve side from doing this.
Yeah. And the other, sorry, go ahead, Conrad.
Oh, I was just saying, I think the best solution to this is that you allow player trading for 1 set previous. So once the set is kind of completed, everybody's looking to buy the new set. You can buy those on the marketplace, and then when Call to Arms ends and whatever the next set ends up being, you end up being able to trade among players, so you can actually fill out your set a lot easier. But obviously, it's like a timed exclusivity, right?
Yeah, I do think that the ability to borrow decks is the main reason that you would want to open trading, and I think that that's always something that's been really cool about Magic Online. Is if you're just not playing for a while, you can let people borrow your cards for an extended period, and then it just makes everyone happy.
Absolutely. I think being able to, that's the biggest struggle for me right now is I want to play Constructed with a lot of my friends back home, but none of them purchase cards, right? So we're just running free drafts every day, and that's, don't get me wrong, fantastic, been loving it, but
can we then talk about, since we're talking about how easy and how free everything is, that why are people complaining about how expensive this game is to play when you could really play it for free?
Well,
yeah, I mean, so first of all, I think one of the things that come up that is super strange is that a lot of the complaints I've seen have been people saying like, hey, this game isn't addictive enough, right? It doesn't have the in-app purchases game mechanics where you get points for logging in the first day that other games have. And that to me just struck me as such an interesting change of sea compared to before. Before, people used to complain about those mechanics where you get free things, where you have to pay extra money to stay involved. We don't have daily quests. And frankly, I do think Artifacts should have daily quests just from a game design and monetization standpoint. But from a fan of the game, if you want to play the game, I don't think that's like a relevant or useful thing to have.
I think the thing that they're missing that I think would have given it a little bit more of a progression that would have been super easy is, how you have the perfect runs in every queue. Just put who has the most perfect runs or who has the highest winning percentage, like perfect runs to not perfect runs. That would give you something to strive for to like work your way up the leaderboard. And I think that's way more interesting than a ladder like most games have, because I don't know if I told you guys this, but I'm very public about, I think ladders in card games are terrible because you go through faster with more aggressive decks, and that just feels super bad if you're someone who likes to play grindy mid-range or grindy control decks, and especially in a game like Artifact where your games take half an hour a lot of the times. That feels super bad compared to someone who's just going to do like a mono black Sorla aggro deck, and it's like, well, I either win really fast or I lose really fast. But I think that level of progression would have been something that would be super easy for Valve to put in that I think they missed a little bit. And we even had something like that in the alpha, so it's not even that hard for them to implement.
Yeah, but on the flip side, right, it's that if they think there's a need, they'll. Right, I think the alpha one was a little imbalanced, right? Like Hyped was at the top because he'd been grinding 40 to 70 hours a week in the game. And like George is actually also good at the game, so it's not that big of a deal. I think people in that top 5, top 10 who weren't amazing at the game, right? Like they just played the most out of them and they had the most number of wins and levels that way. But I do think that's two separate things. I think there's some people who are complaining about there are no daily quests, there's no like addictive mechanics to keep them in the game. And then I think the second topic that you're talking about, Frank, is the idea of, hey, there's no way to rate myself against the other best players in the world, which I think is probably comes from Magic the Gathering, right? Like Magic the Gathering, historically, with the exception of maybe the ELO system that they just point out, which is imperfect, there's really no great way to tell if you're good at Magic the Gathering, especially online, unless you're not spending that much.
It's just like limited rating, constructed rating, and that was it. There was no other comparison.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, not coming from card games, I've seen leaderboards in almost everything that I've ever played, particularly something like Dota 2. But I think MMR in those games are just very different than card games. Like Frank mentioned, card games with leaderboards right now really reward the aggro decks, the ones that can grind through as many games as possible. And because it doesn't have a leaderboard at this time, you're getting, I at least feel, quality games within draft construct or expert constructed and expert phantom draft right now, and even probably expert keeper draft. So it's one of those unique things where, at least for me, I mean, I'm not a most competitive person. Maybe I'm a bad example, but
you're not competitive, really?
I mean, comparative.
How many tournaments
You're
have you fired?
Competitive, Conrad, I would say.
I'm competitive, but results aren't my driver for success. My motivation for success is fun, and being competitive might be fun.
That just sounds like the Canadian you coming out trying to be polite.
Maybe. But realistically, I mean, I'm looking at it, and I think Artifact has that happy medium. If you're gonna love this game, you're gonna play it. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. You don't need these game mechanics that are, in my opinion, predatory, but like that are actually pretty abusive, in fact. And what it does is it's gonna have a hardcore audience, and maybe that's what they want to be going for. Magic is that, I never got into Magic because it was for the hardcore user only. I think I'm going to be different with art.
I mean, this game is very blatantly catering at a hardcore demographic. This game is so hard to play. You lose concentration for even like a second and it will cost you the game. What seems like a minor mistake will have a cascading effect that will lose you the game either that turn or 3 turns later. It's extremely punishing. So there's nothing casual about Artifact. So even though I think they want to get in as many players as possible, like even very early on, Gabe was very public about when we had to make a design choice where it was either make something simple and easily understood or make something deep and really interesting, they always went with the deep and interesting one, if all things else being equal. So for me, that's great. I don't know how it's going to be for them long term, but they have clearly gone into this catering to the very competitive, deep understanding card game player rather than the people who just want something to do on their phone for 5 minutes. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, but so here's just to play the devil's advocate here, which is that nowadays games aren't designed necessarily to be able to cater to audiences that are much smaller, right? Like that was definitely the case years ago. But can this game survive if there aren't a large base of people playing in addition to your hardcore players?
Well, I think that's the thing with We say the game's free. It's not free. That is the one thing. It is $20. There is an initial buy-in, but you can get a lot of value out of that buy-in. And I think that's them releasing free Phantom Drafts among internal tournaments. Them looking at probably some other call to arms types events. This is going to be, I think, a successful business model for Valve here in the long run, because it's going to draw in that casual audience. The fact that I can draft for free now, and set up a free tournament is a huge factor, I think, comparatively. I get to play some of these cards that I don't typically play, and I'm like, man, I really wish I had that card on my deck, is my first feeling, right? And I think a lot of my friends have said that too, is they never got to play with Tinker before. They saw their first Solar Con yesterday, and they go, oh, how do I get that? Just for reference also, a lot of my friends are in the beta now currently because a lot of them went to TI because it was in my hometown. So it is a good reason why all my friends have the beta, at least. They're all Dota players, so.
Yeah. And I'd like to just say, a lot of people were saying, man, this game is so expensive. How am I supposed to get involved? They've had free draft and free constructed in. So even if you say, oh, I don't want to spend all of this money to get my ass kicked or whatever, you don't have to. There's a free queue for you to play and learn how to play the game and get better, so that eventually you can try to go infinite of the game without having to spend a lot of money.
Absolutely.
And so in that way, I think people have been complaining a little bit without even really understanding the mechanics that are in this game, so that you can get better, so that you can go infinite, rather than just having to play it like a slot machine type thing. There are ways in which you can improve without having to spend money. And to me, that's key.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think this game is pretty difficult, but I think the key thing is that as you start to learn, as you start to play, you're going to gain a lot more skill. So I guess that leads us kind of into our next topic. We're going to talk about some of the initial metagame that we've seen. I think best person to probably start this off is Mirhi, because you've played the most constructed at this time.
So with the exception of Swims for blue, it was a really cool deck. It was Ogre, Kana, Prelix, Venomancer, and Dro. Mm-hmm. And it's just he's playing a bunch of Compels and a bunch of Cunning Plans just to keep his blue heroes alive, get a bunch of creeps, and then was playing the 6-mana Lockout card, which name I can't remember.
Lost in Time.
Kind of cool deck. Lost in Time. That's the only time I've played against anyone playing green. The other decks have all been gold decks, either red, black, gold, or black, blue, gold, or just black aggro decks with Sorlikon and Storm Spirit. I haven't seen anything else on the ladder at all. Now, granted, I haven't played that much constructed yet. I've gone through 3 constructed queues, and my deck isn't perfect, so I'm not 5-0ing those like I am in limited. But kind of what we talked about in episode 1, Conrad, your prediction about gold decks being the decks of the meta on day 1 seemed to be coming true. And I don't know if that's because they're easy to play or they're fun. You get to buy all these fancy, expensive items, and you get to kill your opponent's heroes because it feels good. But that's all I'm running into. I'm running into the gold mirror almost every single game.
Are they fully developed ones?
No, they're missing a lot. They have 1 time of triumph. They have either no Spring the Traps or only a few. They have a few Horn of the Alphas and then nothing else. They're not fully developed. There's no one that has a bunch of Horns, a bunch of Vesper of the Tyrants and stuff like that.
Here's a theory, by the way. I noticed that they changed up the base set, so some of the gold generation cards are in the base set, but maybe that's a large driver of this.
Oh, did they? I missed that.
I think that might be a portion of it. The key thing is that I looked at Payday, I looked at Ironfall Goldmine. They're both commons, right? And so you're going to see them a lot. They're very easy to get. Maybe you end up getting one of these 25 items in your secret shop. It's just value, right? All you need is a couple. Also, I have a new theory, by the way, talking about gold decks here. I don't think Vesture is going to be the number 1 costing item. It's going to be Horn.
Why?
Because everybody likes playing Horn. Vesture is very deck specific, I think. And nobody wants to sell their Horns. Everybody wants to keep their Horns. I think people are okay with selling Vestures. I don't think anybody's okay with selling a Horn Deal.
Really? You think it's because it's a Timmy card, kind of?
I don't know what a Timmy card is. Yeah.
So basically, it's people who just like giant creatures, just like to make huge things.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that, as well as Horn, I think is a little bit more versatile. I know that I think we might all disagree on this, but I think getting a Horn round early is really valuable.
Yeah, I think Horn is definitely more valuable round 3 than Vesture.
And particularly around black decks, because most black decks are aggro decks. So getting down a 14/14 creep in an aggro matchup with 6 Siege, of course, feels great. But that's just a theory. Figuring that
So I think what's interesting here is just um, how fast does this meta change, right? Like in the alpha, we saw the meta change somewhat frequently because everyone had access to every card. Now that you have to buy an entire new set of cards in order to play another deck,
Yeah.
do you foresee a lot of these gold decks just like if this is the initial meta, is it just going to be the initial meta for a really long time? What do you think, Conrad?
I think it's actually gonna stay like this for a little bit. So I 100% believe that the meta is gonna follow exactly what the beta did. So
I agree.
first tournament winner was a gold deck. It was a black red gold deck. You'll find people start the first thing that they'll play is red green, and so it'll be red green, red black, blue black, storm, and that's the thing too. There's net decking, but like I think we're gonna see all these decks. At least in the current metagame, and that's the most interesting part to me is that net decking is going to be I think caused a huge effect on this initial meta, and so but gold deck is the most affordable of the net deckables that are like top tier in my opinion. The other thing I've been seeing a lot of is aggro decks, and I think that is something that Frank kind of mentioned here Mirri, is that aggro right now is the most affordable and the most the best you can you could do a lot with it. So you just have like
all you really need is Sorlicon. That's the only like really rare card.
Yeah, and so we're gonna see I think Sorlicon kind of go up in price I think initially, and even without Sorlicon you can still do a lot of damage with some of these black heroes. And my biggest thing with black is that I have this new theory as well that all the rares in black kind of are whatever except for like Sorlicon. All the good cards are actually commons.
Yeah, most of the good black, because all the black heroes that are rare are good in limited. They're good in draft. They're not that like Tinker is insane in draft, and then Lich is like very good in draft, and it's good in some constructed decks, but not that many. But then like there's also the only other rare that I've seen that goes into aggro is I've seen some people playing the Oath, which as you guys know I think that card is terrible. And I literally had a guy put an Apotheosis Blade on a hero in a lane that had the Oath, and they couldn't use it because you can't use Apotheosis Blade when you have the Oath in the lane. So I was
bad, man. That's just a play mistake.
Yeah, I'm like, this is another reason why the Oath is bad. But yeah, I think that I agree that aggro deck's also very easy to find. Touching on Soleimani Storm, which you just mentioned, that deck's very expensive because that deck's just filled with rares, and you need multiple Emissary of the Quorums, multiple Incarnation of Soleimani, Annihilation, bunch of rare heroes. Like that deck's going to take a while for a lot of people to put together, and I haven't really seen it a lot yet.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very difficult to build the full version, but I sense a lot of people will be playing a half Soleimani Storm deck. It's still very powerful. As long as you have like Annihilations in at any cost, you can really slow down some of those other lanes, particularly if they're playing green or blue. That's just my theory right now. I haven't played too much constructed just because I've been particularly playing other stuff, but primarily limited. But I think constructed right now is being dominated by red and black because it's really easy to look at red and go, good heroes, good plays, and then it's same thing with black as well. And also PAs are common. That's the other thing. The commons in black are just insane.
I actually think PA is obviously very good. I think people are using PA as a crutch. A lot of the times I'll see people use coup de grace even when it's not the most optimal play, just because they're like, man, I'm just going to get that hero. And I feel like people are really not understanding that card is a tempo card purely. It's actually, in the long term, a terrible card. You've cost yourself 2 cards to get rid of a hero that they can now redeploy. And a lot of mistakes I see are that like people using it to kill a hero in a lane that's already dead even, and it's like, well, you just did them a favor and you cost yourself a card by getting their hero out of that lane that they didn't want there anyway. Also, you can just payday later, and it's like, maybe that's worth it to you, but not really. You're helping your opponent out just as much as you are. The other thing I wanted to touch on was in response to the gold generation decks. We saw this a lot at the very end of the beta, but do you guys think this will end up being the Reptile Convoy Corrosive Mist decks that we're starting to see pop up if there's going to be so much gold generation running around in all the queues?
That's super interesting. I actually don't know how fast the metagame will adapt. And so I think that is such a metagame play. And if at the end of the beta, we saw so much gold generation out there that made sense. But if there's a healthy mix of people playing aggro decks constantly, I'm not sure if like Corrosive Mist is as good in that iteration as it was on the other side.
It's something I think we're gonna see. Maybe people play 1-off of 2-off into certain green decks. I really like Corrosive Mist because I also love gold generation, but I think it's just there's no better feeling than seeing, you know, some insane item drop down and you just go later, and it just feels really good when you do something like that. And I think that's something that you're gonna see. I think some people experiment with. Corrosive Mist also a rare, so we're gonna see those be much more limited as well. So I see that being kind of more of a not direct counter, but something you might throw 1-off in a deck, just because you might not have all the cards to build a quote unquote perfect deck, and kind of as a metagame counter. Like currently right now, this is, I know, a constructed show, but I'm gonna give one limited tip here. I would consider one Lodestone Demolition in limited right
You
now.
are out of your mind.
Now,
Lodestone Demolition.
Okay, I'm just gonna do one really quick. I gotta keep it quick. Enchantress is like one of the most played and one of the highest win rate heroes. You know what it does? It gives 1 armor to everybody when it drops down its improvement. That's a lot of damage depending on what lane you're in.
Oh, so if you're
metagame.
A Kana deck, those aren't okay. Yeah.
Just don't listen to me. That's all you gotta know.
All right. Well, in any case, I think Constructed's in sort of a weird place right now. That's just because of how early it is. I actually don't know how many people are in the beta. My queues aren't firing instantly, so I'm guessing there's probably only a few thousand people as opposed to hundreds of thousands of people. And so it's going to be really interesting to see, like, when the game launches. Does anyone have statistics on how many pre-ordered copies have happened?
I don't think that works. It's not available.
Yeah, I don't think they've released it. We could probably ask Valve and they tell us, because that's the type of thing that it seems like they don't care about keeping secret. But
maybe they did say that there were 40,000 people, I believe, that pre-ordered. Or not pre-ordered, the friends and family beta. That assumes that not everybody's going to be playing during that time, but you know, we're looking at tens of thousands of people potentially in the beta right now.
So I will say my queues are not always instant, but I've only had like a few times where I was waiting for more than a minute or two. It's usually pretty quick. It's usually my queues are popping in every queue under a minute. Unlike when it was just, you know, the alpha people, my queues were long, especially for constructed. I just gave up. But now
you just pinged everyone and you're like, hey, does anyone want?
No, I was just like, anyone constructed, and then no one wants to play constructed. Which, like, I saw Reddit, you know, Reddit's never wrong, was always worried about, you know, the viability of constructed. Constructed's great, it's just there weren't a lot of people playing it. And I think that's because a lot of the alpha players had played constructed for so long, and we had this super inbred metagame where everyone had seen everything. But now that there's more people, I think a lot more people are going to experiment, and Constructed's going to fire a lot more. Constructed's fine long term.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think there's going to be decks that we haven't even seen throughout the beta that are going to reveal itself in this current metagame. You know, there's a lot of decks out there that I think are really solid, but maybe haven't been honed to like that perfect level. So that's kind of what I'm waiting.
Cool. I think I know this is sort of a short episode with Thanksgiving and whatnot. Do you guys have anything else you guys want to talk about?
I want to know when people are going to start hosting the money constructed tournaments, because I went in on that. I haven't seen a lot on that yet, but I've been asking around. Do you think we might host a Time of Triumph constructed tournament at some point in the future? Is that something people might want to do? I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I'd play one. I would definitely play one.
Yeah, something like the Phil Mickelson versus match play golf event. We have like a best of 17 match between me and Conrad. Winner take all.
Winner take all, 1 mil.
Yeah. Do you get to only bring one deck, or do you get to bring in multiple decks?
I think we get to bring in multiple decks, and we get to just play. We have to play both sides of the mirror. We bring 7 decks, and then you play both sides.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's kind of one of the most interesting thing. I believe there was a tournament actually today. Somebody just let us know that there was a tournament on Brain. It's called Brain Scans. I believe it was constructed, but don't know too much other than that. So people are starting to kind of push forward, at least in that sense. You know, I think there will be more constructed. The We Play event next week is constructed, and it's probably something we'll definitely be talking about in our next future episode. But I think, you know, looking at kind of the metagame right now. I think Frank has kind of nailed it. What you're looking at in Constructed is very much aggro decks, gold generation decks. I think that's all I've seen personally. I haven't seen a lot of Control. I think Control could beat those decks, but are you willing to, run
Control
those?
is too expensive for people right now.
Right,
Rare
right.
heroes, rare items, rare spells. It takes a while.
Exactly. So I think we're going to see a lot of that, at least for the time being. Maybe once the marketplace opens up, we'll start seeing a lot more of these other decks. But, is there anything that you guys are looking to try out, or anything that, anything in Constructed that you guys are excited for?
So I would say the thing I'm excited to play again is blue-red tempo / mid-range. That deck is going to be awesome. Again,
That's what I want to play too.
if all these decks are like aggro gold generation decks, that deck is going to fucking destroy.
Yeah, I have that deck done except for Axe. I don't have Axe, and I
That's a
need
big
Axe
part, by the
to
way.
make that deck good. But I have the rest of it, and I really, really want to do that. Like 3 Swing the Traps and 2 Time Traps. I guess like I'm missing 1 Time Trap, but that's whatever. I really need Axe. If I got Axe, I would just be preying on all these red, black, gold decks. When you're just like Berserkers calling their like Bounty Hunter when it doesn't proc or whatever, So like, yeah, that's what I want to do too.
Yeah, I really hope that I'm going to open one more pack, and it's just going to be I'm going to get like 17 axes in a row. And I'm just going to send it to Frank and be like, "Hey, Frank,
Please, I need Axe. Give me Axe."
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think that kind of concludes our episode. I think we'll be talking a lot more. Maybe we'll take a look at some of the results of this Brain Scans tournament and talk about other future Constructed tournaments, along with what we're seeing in the meta. Game releases next week, so we'll have a lot more, I think, to talk about then. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. Any last words from either of you?
I'm good. Find me on Twitter at FFMiri or on Twitch at Miri.
Yeah, I'm at Seb Park, and I will definitely be less sleep deprived next time. I promise.
Yeah. You can follow me at Conrad Jansen, ConradJanzen, and
Zed.
Zed is from Power Rangers, man.
Yeah, no, it's for the rest of the world actually. And then you can also find me on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/Conrad. I have been streaming a little bit, so definitely catch one of the tournaments that I end up running, and I'm sure I'll invite you guys as well. So hopefully you guys will get to join in. Maybe you'll run a Constructed one.
Yeah, let's run a Constructed one. That'd be great.
Yeah. No, I think also I have a great idea for another Constructed tournament. All rares, only rares allowed. It's the true.
And you'll have to play Watchtower.
The true baller tournament.
Where's you need your monocle? Just like
yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and hopefully we'll catch you around next time.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.